Kipsang reached the door and knocked gently, waiting for a response. When none came, a sense of unease settled in his chest. He pushed the door open and it creaked loudly. When Kipsang stepped into the hut, his heart almost fell to his chest. Chepkoech was sitting in a small stool in the middle of the room, looking defeated. Above her, a rough rope hung from a wooden beam tied onto a noose. It was clear to Kipsang that Chepkoech was trying to commit suicide. "Chepkoech, what are you doing?" Kipsang shouted with a shaky voice. Chepkoech, who was crying quietly, lifted her head slowly. Her eyes were empty, filled with pain, far from the bright, hopeful girl Kipsang once knew. "I can't do this anymore. I want to die," Chepkoech whispered, her voice breaking with sadness. "Everything is gone. I am blind. I have no hope left." Kipsang's heart broke at her words. He moved closer and with shaky hands began to untie the rope from the beam. As he worked, he spoke softly, trying to reach through her sorrow. "Chep, when I went abroad, I left you full of life. Please tell me what happened to you, and where is your father?" Chepkoech told him to sit next to her, and she began to narrate her story, tears in her eyes. Chepkoech grew up in a small village nestled at the foot of Mount Longonot in Kenya. From an early age, she had a passion for running. Her father, Kipyegon, was a local hero, a man who had once run in marathons across the country. He never achieved international fame, but his name was known and respected in the village. Kipyegon was the kind of father who believed in nurturing talents, and he saw greatness in his daughter from the moment she took her first steps. Every morning, before the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Chep and her father would lace their worn-out sneakers and hit the dirty roads that crisscrossed the village. These roads, winding through fields of maize and coffee plants, became Chep's training ground. Kipyegon taught her how to control her breathing, maintain a steady pace, and push through the pain when her muscles screamed for her to stop. Chep cherished these moments with her father, the quiet encouragement he offered, and the tales of his own running days that he shared. "Remember, my girl," Kipyegon will say, "running is not just about speed. It's about endurance, determination, and heart. You must run with everything you have, with every part of your being." With her father's encouragement, Chep began to dream of becoming a marathon runner, not just locally, but on the world stage. Her heart soared with the thought of running in far-off places where her feet would pound the pavement among the best runners in the world. But then, tragedy struck. Chep's father fell ill suddenly and passed away, leaving Chepkoech heartbroken. The man who had taught her everything about running was gone, and with him went the light in her life. Chep's mother was devastated by the loss. Alone with a young daughter to care for, she struggled to make ends meet. Life in the village was hard, and it wasn't long before Chep's mother remarried, hoping that a new husband would bring stability in their lives. But life with her stepfather was anything but stable. Her stepdad Kamau was a bitter man who was quick to anger and slow to offer kindness. He would beat Chepkoech for even the slightest mistake she did. To him, Chepkoech was an unwanted burden, a reminder of the man who had come before him. He saw her passion for running as a waste of time and effort, something that could bring no benefit to the household. "You're wasting your time," Kamau would sneer whenever he caught Chepkoech practicing her running in the early morning hours. "Running will put no food on this table. You should be working, not chasing your foolish dreams." Kamau even forbade her from participating in any running competition and assigned her the hardest chores, hoping to crush her spirit. Fetching water from the river, gathering firewood from the forest, tending to crops and feeding livestock became her daily tasks. But Chepkoech found solace in her running, even if it was only during these chores. She would run to the river with an empty pot and back with it full and fill all the tanks behind their house. She would then run to the forest for firewood and return with a sprint. Running was her escape, her moment of freedom from the harsh reality of life. One day, as Chepkoech and her stepdad were arguing, her stepdad Kamau grabbed a stick and hurled it at her with all his might. The stick struck her head with a sickening thud, and Chepkoech crumbled to the ground, pain exploding behind her eyes. When she finally regained consciousness, the world around her was plunged into darkness. She was blind. She cried upon realizing what had happened to her. Her dreams of becoming a runner shattered in that instant. Kamau, realizing what he had done, showed no remorse. Instead, he forbade Chepkoech from leaving the house. Her days were spent in isolation, confined to the small darkened room at the back of the house. No one was allowed to visit her, only Chep's mother, and she was only allowed to enter Chep's room when she was bringing food to her. Chep's mom always had tears in her eyes. She didn't know of how to help her daughter, and she couldn't leave Kamau because he provided for everything in the house. "And that is how I lost my dad and became blind." Chepkoech finished narrating to Kipsang, tears in her eyes. "I can feel your pain, Chep," Kipsang said. "But committing suicide is not a solution. Please do not give up. Your father believed in you, and I believe in you, and I'm going to help you. Before I went abroad, I made a promise to your father that I would ensure you become a star, and I intend to fulfill that promise." Chepkoech looked at the direction of Kipsang and said, "You cannot help me. I am blind. Can't you see? How can I run? Just let me die." "Oh my dear, blindness doesn't define your limits. Your spirit does," Kipsang said, his voice firm and gentle. "We will train together. I'll be your guide. We will find our way. You have so much to give, Chepkoech, and I won't let you give up." For the first time in a long while, Chepkoech felt the faint stirrings of hope, and a hopeful smile broke through her tears. With Kipsang's guidance, they left the room, and Kipsang took Chep to his house in the village. Early the next morning, they began training. Kipsang began by teaching her how to rely on her other senses, her hearing, her sense of touch, even the rhythm of her own breathing. In the days that followed, Kipsang guided Chep's hand along the path, describing the terrain, the turns, the way the ground rose and fell beneath her feet. Gradually, Chep learned to trust her instincts and to feel the ground with every step. Kipsang would tie a rope between them, leading her as she ran, encouraging her to match his pace. They ran at dawn, just as she had with her father, and Chep began to dream of becoming great once again. The villagers watched in awe as Chepkoech began to reclaim her former self. Word spread quickly about the blind girl who was running, and people from neighboring villages came to see her train, and they marveled at her courage, her determination, and her refusal to give up despite the odds stacked against her. Kipsang knew that Chepkoech was ready to compete, but he also knew that convincing the authorities to allow a blind runner to participate in a marathon would be no easy task. Kipsang was able to secure a meeting with the National Athletics Federation. The officials were skeptical, dismissing the idea of a blind girl competing in a marathon as unrealistic. They raised concern about her safety and about whether she could truly handle the grueling demands of a marathon, but Kipsang managed to convince them that Chep was a strong and passionate runner. The officials agreed to let Chep participate in the marathon, but on one condition, that she run with a guide who will stay by her side throughout the race, connected to her by a tether, and Kipsang agreed to the terms. The day of the marathon arrived, and the streets of Nairobi were packed with spectators. Everyone had come to witness the blind girl run because this was something that had never happened before. The air buzzed with excitement, and the runners lined up at the starting line, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Among them stood Chepkoech, her hand gripping the tether that connected her to Kipsang. She could feel the energy in the air, the collective breath of the crowd as they waited for the race to begin. Then suddenly, the sound of the starting gun echoed through the air and they were off. The race was long and grueling, the heat from the sun bearing down on the runners as they pounded the pavements. With Kipsang at Chep's side guiding her steps, Chep pushed forward, her feet moving in rhythm with his. She ran with everything she had, with every part of her being, just as her father had taught her. There were moments when pain in her legs was almost unbearable, when the heat threatened to sap her strength, when the doubt crept into her mind, whispering that she couldn't do it. But each time, she remembered her father's voice, his word of encouragement, and the promise she had made to herself to never give up. As they neared the final stretch of the race, the cheering of the crowd grew louder and more intense. Chepkoech could feel the energy of the spectators, their excitement palpable. They were chanting her name, Chepkoech, 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 urging her on, willing her to cross the finish line. With a final burst of strength, Chepkoech pushed herself harder than ever before, her legs burning with exertion, her lungs gasping for air. And then, with Kipsang's voice guiding her, she crossed the finish line. The roar of the crowd was deafening as Chepkoech realized that she had done it. Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees. Kipsang was there beside her, helping her to her feet, his own face beaming with pride. But the victory was more than just finishing the race. When the final times were announced, it became clear that Chepkoech was the top finisher in marathon, occupying position number 1. The crowd erupted into applause and reporters scrambled to capture the moment, and others tried to interview her. Chepkoech had not only proven that she could run with the best of the best, but she had shown the world that blindness was not a barrier, but an obstacle that could be overcome with courage and determination. In the days that followed, Chep's story spread across the globe. She became a sensation, a symbol of hope and resilience for people everywhere. Offers poured in from sponsors eager to support her as she trained for international competitions. She was invited to speak at events, to share her story with others who faced their own challenges. Chepkoech went on to compete in marathons around the world, winning gold medals and breaking records. She became a world champion, and though she could not see the finish lines that she crossed, she knew in her heart that she had achieved something extraordinary. Chepkoech bought a beautiful house for her mother, and her mother was happy to divorce Kamau the toxic man. With all her success and money, Chepkoech established an organization to help people with disabilities and teach them different skills that they would use to help them make a living. Chepkoech was content and proud of the life she had touched and changed. She had made her father proud, and she was a world marathon champion. The lesson that you can learn from this story is that disability is not inability. Also, we can learn that there is light at the end of the tunnel.